The sparks of rebellion. The Zalari called it integration. Humanity knew it as enslavement. For 30 years, Earth had been a vassal of the Helios dominion. The Zalari, an ancient and arrogant species, had stripped humanity of its fleets, dismantled its defenses, and reduced its people to second-class workers within their empire. To them, humans were an anomaly, primitive, aggressive, and ultimately insignificant in the grand scheme of the galaxy. They never considered that humans would fight back. A war in the shadows. In the void of space, where light was swallowed by endless black, a secret fleet lay in wait. The HSS Relentless led the charge, its hull a sharp contrast to the smooth, organic designs of Zalari warships. Humans built ships for one purpose: war. No elegance, no unnecessary aesthetics, just raw, brutal efficiency. Captain Elias Voss stood at the bridge, watching as the last mission countdown flickered on the holoscreen. Behind him, Commander Rain scanned the status reports. All systems green. The fleet is in position, she confirmed. Voss nodded, eyes fixed on their target. A Zalari-controlled shipyard orbiting Elian Prime, a vital hub supplying the Dominion's war fleets. 30 years ago, humanity's last warships had been surrendered here under Zalari decree. Tonight, the humiliation would be erased. Weapons ready. Execute the strike. The first shot. The Zalari believed war was a spectacle. Long speeches, threats, ultimatums. Humans believed in action. Without warning, the first missile barrage tore through the void. Explosions cascaded across the station's defensive grid, cutting power to automated turrets before they could react. Human stealth teams infiltrated key outposts, slicing through enemy communications and disabling security locks. Panic spread. The Zalari had never faced an enemy who struck without hesitation, without posturing. As the alarm blared across Elian Prime, the true battle began. Hostile fleet mobilizing, Rain reported. They still don't know how many of us there are. Voss smirked. Good. Let's keep it that way. The Relentless unleashed its railguns, hyper-accelerated slugs, shattering Zalari hulls before their shields could fully engage. Human ships moved unpredictably, outmaneuvering the lumbering, over-engineered enemy vessels. The Zalari had relied on technological superiority for centuries. They had never encountered an enemy who adapted faster than they could react. Within 30 minutes, the battle was over. A new dawn. As the fires of Elian Prime flickered in the void, humanity's first victory was cemented. Across occupied worlds, resistance forces intercepted the broadcast. The Zalari are not invincible. Humanity rises. Voss exhaled slowly, watching as Zalari survivors fled into the void. This was only the beginning. The war had been forced upon them, but now they would decide how it ended. For the first time in history, the stars would bow to man. The art of impossible war. The Zalari did not understand humanity. To them, war was a precise and predictable affair, fleets clashing in carefully orchestrated engagements, dictated by centuries of doctrine. The idea that a lesser species could challenge their dominion was unthinkable. But after Elian Prime fell, the unthinkable became reality. The Zalari strike back. Retaliation was swift. Within days, the Zalari launched a counteroffensive, dispatching an armada 20 times the size of the human fleet. Their target, Proxima Centauri, the heart of the rebellion. The logical assumption was that humanity would attempt to defend the system directly. The Zalari expected another conventional battle, another chance to reassert their dominance. Instead, they found nothing. No warships, no defenses, no fleet to fight, just silence. Then the first ships exploded. Zalari battleships, designed for brute force engagements, fell victim to humanity's mastery of unconventional warfare. Mines, invisible to standard scanners, detonated along predicted fleet paths. Automated drone swarms tore through supply convoys, leaving massive warships stranded and vulnerable. And then came the ghosts. Human vessels, smaller and faster than Zalari warships, emerged from the darkness. They struck hard and vanished just as quickly, warping to new coordinates before the enemy could react. The Zalari scrambled to adjust their formations, but every time they adapted, humanity had already changed the rules of engagement. A war of shadows. Captain Elias Voss stood aboard the HSS Relentless, watching the battle unfold on the holomap. The Zalari fleet was larger, stronger, but their strength meant nothing if they could not strike their enemy. 3 more Zalari cruisers disabled, Commander Rain reported. They're firing blindly now. Voss allowed himself a small smile. Make them bleed. Unlike the Zalari, humanity embraced unpredictability. They disrupted communication relays, hijacked enemy navigation systems, and turned the Zalari's own data networks against them. Misinformation spread like wildfire, sending enemy ships chasing false targets, firing on friendly vessels in the chaos. A Zalari admiral, his voice cracking through a hacked transmission, screamed a single question. How is this possible? Humanity had no ancient fleets, no interstellar empire, no great war history in the stars. By all logic, this should have been nothing. But what the Zalari failed to understand was that humans did not fight to win battles. They fought to win wars. The turning point. After 6 hours of sustained assault, the Zalari fleet began to break. Supply lines were severed. Morale crumbled. And then, the final blow, human saboteurs, embedded within the Zalari ranks, executed a synchronized cyber attack, shutting down propulsion systems across the enemy fleet. Drifting, powerless, defeated, the Zalari had entered Proxima Centauri expecting to crush a rebellion. Instead, they had walked into a trap they never saw coming. As the remnants of the once mighty armada limped away, one message echoed across the system. We are not prey. We are the storm. The war was no longer about survival. It was about dominance. The rise of the Terran Empire. The galaxy was watching. After the annihilation of the Zalari fleet at Proxima Centauri, the unthinkable had become undeniable. Humanity was not just surviving. It was winning. Alien species that once dismissed humanity as an afterthought now spoke of them in hushed voices. Some called them a miracle, others a nightmare. But one truth echoed across the stars. The Zalari were no longer the supreme power in the galaxy, and humanity was just getting started. Forging the future. Captain Elias Voss stood before the newly formed Terran High Command, a coalition of military leaders, engineers, and strategists gathered aboard the newly liberated station Orion's Vigil. It was the first human-controlled orbital command center since the occupation. The room buzzed with urgency. We've proven we can fight, Voss said, his voice steady. Now we prove we can rule. The old world order was gone. The United Nations, once Earth's governing body, was too slow, too bureaucratic for the demands of war. The Terran High Command would take its place, a hybrid of military efficiency and civilian governance, designed to lead humanity into the next stage of its evolution. First priority, Commander Rain added, is securing our newly liberated systems. We don't just need soldiers. We need builders, diplomats, leaders. Humanity had never ruled beyond its own world. Now, it had entire star systems under its control. Infrastructure had to be rebuilt. Supply lines had to be secured. And, most importantly, alliances had to be made. Allies and enemies. Not all species feared humanity's rise. Some saw opportunity. The Vrothai, a technologically advanced but politically neutral race, were the first to make contact. Unlike the Zalari, they did not see humans as mere upstarts. They saw something far more dangerous, potential. Ambassador Caliph, a sleek, insectoid Vrothai with deep violet eyes, studied Voss across the negotiation table. Your kind adapts in ways we do not understand, she admitted. That makes you unpredictable. Voss leaned forward. That makes us survivors. The Vrothai offered a tentative alliance, technology for protection. They had long remained neutral, avoiding conflict with the Zalari. But neutrality was no longer an option. The Zalari would seek vengeance, and the Vrothai knew that only one side in this war had the momentum. But not all species were willing to negotiate. The Drekhari, a reptilian war clan that had served the Zalari for centuries, viewed humanity as a threat to their way of life. Their warning was clear: surrender now or be exterminated. Humanity's response was simpler: come and try. The path to dominion, with allies and enemies aligning. The next phase of the war had begun. Humanity was no longer a scattered resistance. It was an empire in the making. And as the first Terran war fleets set course for the Zalari homeworlds, one truth was certain: the stars would never be the same again. When the stars bowed to man, the Zalari homeworld, Velrades, had never known war. For over 10,000 years, it stood as the shining capital of the Helios Dominion, a symbol of absolute control. No species had ever set foot on its surface without the Zalari's permission. No enemy fleet had ever breached its planetary defenses. Until now, the final invasion. The Terran Empire had arrived. The fleet, now a force to rival any in the galaxy, emerged from the void, sleek, brutal warships forged from human ingenuity and stolen Zalari technology. The HSS Relentless led the charge, its hull scarred from countless battles, but still unbroken. Enemy defense grid is coming online, Commander Rain reported. Orbital cannons charging. Captain Elias Voss stood on the bridge, his gaze fixed on the world below. Let them fire, he said. The first salvo came as expected. Velrades' automated cannons unleashed a storm of energy blasts, designed to wipe out any approaching fleet. But the Zalari had underestimated human innovation. Terran warships didn't rely on sheer firepower alone. They moved fast, striking from unpredictable vectors, overwhelming targeting systems with electronic warfare. Zalari weapons locked onto false signatures, wasting their firepower on decoys. Then the real attack began. Railguns tore through orbital stations. Stealth squadrons disabled planetary shields. And as the defenses crumbled, the final phase commenced: the ground invasion. The fall of the Zalari. Dropships descended through the burning sky, deploying thousands of Terran soldiers onto the streets of the once untouchable capital. The Zalari, long accustomed to ruling from their ivory towers, had no experience with urban warfare. Their elites fell quickly. High Chancellor Vorzal, the supreme ruler of the Zalari, broadcast a desperate plea to the remaining fleet. Hold the line. Humanity cannot be allowed to rule the stars. But there was no line left to hold. Elite Zalari warriors, bred for ritualistic duels, were unprepared for the raw brutality of human close-quarters combat. Terran soldiers fought without honor. Ambushes, explosives, sniper teams eliminating enemy officers before they could issue commands. The Zalari called it dishonorable. Humanity called it survival. By nightfall, Velrades belonged to the Terran Empire. A new order. Voss stood atop the ruins of the Zalari High Council chambers, overlooking the shattered skyline. Smoke curled into the alien sky. The once great city lay in ruins, but its people still lived. He activated his comlink, broadcasting to every world that had once been under Zalari rule. For centuries, you have been told that the Zalari are gods, that their rule is eternal. Today you have seen the truth. The galaxy listened. The age of Zalari dominion is over. The age of humanity has begun. For the first time in history, the stars bowed not to the Zalari, but to man.